These leeks, there are so many of them, I can chop them up with some onions and make myself some very good side salads for some steaks. Because these steaks, they're pretty high for Dragon Ball. Medium rare high. That's right everyone, Dragon Ball Super the Manga Chapter 63 is here, and despite the fact that these leaks have slightly reduced in capacity in comparison to last month, there is still no denying it. It has been very perilous to avoid them. It's like being in the middle of one of those Vegeta rapid-fire volleys or something that he's so famous for. But right now, we are here to review the manga of Dragon Ball Super via Viz Media's online portal, to which you can find high-quality manga from Shonen Jump, including this very tome. All for a couple of bucks a month. Now this isn't a sponsorship from Viz or anything like that, it's just that good a service that I thoroughly recommend it personally. You can also get a more detailed review of this chapter coming soon on our podcast Up on the Lookout with Haverock. We had a little bit of a break for the summer, but pretty soon, going into September, we'll be right back with a regular schedule of podcasts. Chapter 63, Merus Resolve. Resolve, eh? I get the feeling that the word resolve and the word atonement can be interchangeable here. Does anybody remember when Vegeta had one of those? Yeah, I don't think this is going to end well for the angel. Before we begin though, this video has been supported by the folks over at Ridge Wallets. With tens of thousands of 5-star reviews for their signature line of slimline wallets right here, like this rather refined carbon fiber motif that can fit up to a dozen cards, as well as all of their travel gear, much like this absolutely slick backpack that I cannot wait to take travelling once I'm able to do so, safely. You can get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/Masako and using the code Masako at checkout. You can check out the details again in the description. Thank you. Where we last left off, it was pretty much everything coming down in flames, with Vegeta the first one doing so from on top of the sky. Everything we thought had been preparing us had been ripped asunder, and it was basically us seeing the Dragon Team being utterly trampled, with Moro thoroughly enjoying this with great mirth. Despite this being completely bad for Vegeta, effectively cancelling out all he'd done on Yardrat, the visuals were very intense. It was much worth the frustration, narratively speaking, to see some really brutal stuff. Something we've rarely seen lately. With Gohan basically now becoming the walking, talking exposition, that is until Moro breaks his front teeth, our heroes had to kind of survive as best as they could, and Moro was in no rush to stop them. Now Haverock has a little notion that he's become aware of in recent months. Toyotaro tends to have one good chapter of Super, and then the next one is a bit more lackluster, then good again. So, here's to a better outing today as we continue with Chapter 63. Let's hope Haverock was right. Let me know in the comments if you think he is. We resume our story with Merus having arrived on the scene and him staring down Moro after having popped one with his laser tool, which, if you might remember, is charged with his own ki from his own energy. Yeah, so as to make it look natural and he would blend with the Galactic Patrol colleagues, it's not him shooting ki, it's shooting from his, signature rifle. Since Jarko doesn't know that Merus is from the heavens, he basically, instead of greeting him, reverts back to his whingy stereotype of, "How dare you be so late, Merus? You cumbling nincompoop!" In any case, Merus is here and he seems composed, aware of what he's doing. What he is doing exactly isn't necessarily fighting Moro solely. Apparently he is also here to complete Goku's training. That isn't a good sign, and with him here, he has also whisked away the Dragon Team from Moro's presence so that they can all get on with their own thing. But it also means that Moro and Merus can go all out, and go all out they do so pretty early on into the chapter, with the additional tidbit that Merus had indeed been hiding his identity with Moro the entire time he's been around. Only now, thanks to an absence of life energy, does the Ram Man actually realise that Merus may be a whole other animal altogether. Or angel, more like. So, in order for Dende and the others to regroup and get back into a fight, Merus uses a quarterstaff, just a regular one, to whip himself around Merus and provide a very impressive amount of acrobatics here. All of this being enough to dazzle Moro into surprise and do what he said with buying time. It's a different type of combat here, which is nice to see in Dragon Ball, after lots of brawling in the traditional sense. In fact, it actually reminds me very much of Goku's Power Pole or Nyobo, because it can actually stretch and contract, depending on your preference of the name, and it's enough to make Moro bleed and become actually rather excited into the foray. Now this is something he hasn't really exhibited with the others. As we know, Moro is a warlock, and not one for enjoying a good sparring session. He doesn't care about fighting, he just wants the end goal, which is why Goku got angry with him earlier in the arc. But now, it feels like he's coming alive, and/or beginning to understand the situation from what he can gather. We then have Jarko mesmerised with the true power of Merus, something which again, Merus has been hiding from everyone, so as to blend in naturally as a mortal. And then we see the next part of the plan come to bear. It turns out that Merus wasn't alone. Whis was here as well, and together, the latter had helped teleport the dragon team a short distance away. Not that far away, they can still see the action, it just meant that they weren't caught up in any of the brouhaha in or out of the shield, which has now been removed by Moro. Whis and Beerus are now here to assist, but with the cat being quite reluctant to do so, we sort of know that this is all just bluster really, all because we know he would never really abandon them properly, since the food on Earth is too good. And remember from the movie, he also sort of low-key enjoys looking after Bulla. Yeah, sort of keeping up that connection with Vegeta in some way, indirectly. And sure enough, that's exactly where they actually go, so that can only be good. That food was too tempting, and that's what they were there for really. I'm sure that a lot of you, when seeing that panel of Beerus and Whis there, slightly groaned thinking that, oh, Beerus is just gonna come here and one-shot Moro, but nope, food is just too strong for Beerus to try and resist. He's overly keen. So, with the pair heading over for Capsule Corp, Dende does his thing with slowly healing Goku. But here's an interesting point here. It means that with Dende's healing ability, if you're stronger, it takes longer to heal. Stronger takes longer. And Gohan offers to go last. Yeah, it seems about right. I mean, what can he offer now? I mean, sorry. So good news, we have Goku. However, he is shocked to realise that Merus is here, and he knows exactly what will happen to him. The Saiyan knows that if his friend goes all out using all of his angel powers in the mortal realm, then he's going to get erased. So he's going to have to jump in again just before Merus can actually go all out. So it's Goku time. And if you're thinking that Vegeta will jump in too, he hasn't been healed yet. Back at the fight, Merus is having to deal with more acrobatics from Moro, and then him relying on some attacks from 7-3's power of absorption, with Piccolo being the example. Having been detached from his star for a brief time, Merus gets it back, and it confuses Moro into wondering why he relies on such a thing, and whether he is still holding back even more. However, Moro is then shocked to see Goku up and about, seemingly now back up to full power. I mean, he's not scared, but it's like, oh, I see you, wee brat. You come back for some more? And Goku is back for some more, going into Ultra Instinct Sign. That being said, even Merus knows that his time is short, and what he is doing is dangerous. So, to up the tension even more, we cut back to Beerus and Whis talking, and they are musing that Ultra Instinct Sign is still not enough to win, even after a potential Zenkai. It's almost like Toyotaro's trying to tell us through the characters going, relax fam, Goku isn't stealing the win on his own. Yet. Despite Goku getting angry that the power isn't working still, Merus knows that it is working. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he says that one last push will be able to get Goku to the final step. I know what this is all about, or I can guess, and if it turns out to be true, then it's either going to be extremely cool, or it's going to make Ultra Instinct just another palette swap for Super Saiyan, all in what it takes to get to it. Moro then tries to use stretchy arms, but then it seems like Merus' regular old staff transformed, surprise surprise, into his angelic one. And if you're wondering how is that even possible, may I remind you that Dragon Ball angels have been kept deliberately mysterious. They can basically do anything because we don't know what they can do. They are basically infinite. That's why he was so reliant on it, and right now it's able to chop through Moro's stretched hand. And this is basically Merus now going full pelt, and accepting his future punishment of using angelic powers on Earth. So it seems like he hadn't really been doing so up until now. Now, though, he isn't holding back. It's good that it's actually happening now in the second half of the chapter, instead of right at the beginning, meaning that we're not having fatigue, as it were. Now Moro is getting bodied by Merus, utterly confused at this sudden burst in power, pinned to the floor, and then has one of his hand crystals shattered, or more accurately, sealed. But I mean, yeah, it's basically shattered. This is all done during a monologue of Merus. He's basically going through that whole motion that anime shonen series do, both showing how weak Moro is to him, and also that he is doing something intense or meaningful, or it's gonna cue the feels. Then we hear the word justice from Merus, basically confirming what Hav and I have thought from the start. Merus is the anti-Zamasu. Not anti-Zamasu, anti-Zamasu. he wants justice for mortals instead of justice against them. Also at the same time basically calling the Galactic Patrol well-meaning, but they're still helpless weaklings. Savage. However, the Galactic Patrol does have their own use. They are carting off the remaining prisoners, meaning that they can't come back in for round 2. It means it's not going to be dragged out anymore. It's just Moro left. Merus then blaps Moro's other hand crystal, meaning he can no longer grab people to absorb their powers. He's only got the ones he's already got. But this means that he's starting to fade away Merus. He then mentions that by meeting Goku, it has strengthened his resolve for justice for mortals. Oh man, I'm just getting even more Zamasu vibes here. The parallels are unreal. With Whis pretending to not know that this was Merus' main intent, playing dumb, we then had the latter going for the final push, coupled with flashbacks, so you know it's gonna be emotional, to his time training with Goku then bonding over the time that they had in the chamber. And once again, this feels like Toyotaro is boarding actually the future anime version of this tale instead of just the manga. He's basically telling the anime staff, this is how I want you to do it. One memory in particular is Goku explaining in the best way yet why he lets his enemies go. Yeah, he uses them to get stronger in case they cause trouble again, but he also has the hope that if this keeps happening, making them see sense that they will join the good side. It actually makes this really more exciting for him, and it also shows how persistent he is, but I'm actually okay with this because the way it's actually handled is really wholesome here. I'm okay with this. With the angel dodging Moro's blast, he then punches the warlock in the head, shattering the last of his crystals, now meaning that not only can't he absorb powers anymore, he can't rely on the powers that he's already got. So, no more relying on Piccolo, Vegeta, Gohan, or even that weird hedgehog guy from earlier in the previous chapter. This was the last straw for Merus, and now not only has Merus gone see-through, he's now starting to slowly become vaporize. And as for Moro, he's now just the ram he was. 7-3's power is basically dead weight to him, as is Merus now, or dead vapor. He vanishes from view, whilst also confirming he was a little brother of Whis, and we now get a shot of Goku of his back, like the time he went Super Saiyan for the first time. And did Merus just pull a Krillin? The stage is set for chapter 64, what must be the finale of the fight, right? All in all, this chapter was a good chapter in revealing what Moro's weakness was. I had been really mystified by all of this, but now it actually makes sense, leveling the playing field as well as putting to bed what Merus' destiny was. What was he going to do? Was he a bit of a misfit? No, he was never going to be an angel. He loved mortals too much, and so he ensured that the greatest error he did by letting Moro out to try and test himself was corrected by him cancelling it out at the cost of his immortality and life. It's actually quite mature for someone so brash. He accepted his consequences, and this is something that Goku really needs to understand again. He's not had to deal with this for a very long time. No Dragon Balls can wish Merus back. He is gone, for good. And this is something that will tip Goku over the edge. He had made a friend, much more so than he ever did with Whis. That was more of a teacher-student sort of thing. It's actually quite powerful for Super, in fact. We need more of that, and I hope that we'll get some of this coming very soon, September 18th. Goku understanding what is the result of his own actions. But what do you folks think of chapter 63? Has this gotten you curious for what is to come next, or are you feeling that it's going to be rather predictable? Let me know down in the comments, and I shall see you next month for chapter 64. Until then everyone, catch you later!